Hello Shishyas, welcome to my lecture on plant taxonomy, viruses and lichens. Let's rest quotes. Today's fact about true name of Sanjeevani. We knew a strongest character in Ramayana is Anjaneya. His strength is so high that he can even carry a hill if he can't find a medicinal herb. The modern research show that similar properties are found in Silacella bryopteris. Can you tell your friends about this and feel proud to quote this? For more information, please Google the article in search of Sanjeevani. The contents we are going to cover in this lecture: basic overview of classification, hydrodomiciles, amphiplants, first land rovers, uncovered growth, fade up fairies, neither live nor dead, friends. Overview of classification. Plants are largely classified into two groups considering common external feature: production of seeds. Cryptogams include Thallophyta, algae, fungi, and lichens are in this. Bryophyta, mosses are included in this, and Pteridophyta, ferns are included in this. That means which cannot produce seed for reproduction. And fungi is also part of Thallophyta, but it is separated as an individual kingdom. And phanerogams, the seed-bearing plants, the gymnosperms, where flowering is absent, and angiosperms, flowering plants seen in this, and the phylogeny of algae. I wanted to call algae as mother of plantae. In the gradual evolution, the plants evolved from algae. You can see this phylogeny says the evolutionary relations between all these groups. First is the primary endosymbiosis gave rise to the red algae, chlorophyll B, and starch production evolved in species, and retention of egg in parental organism also taken place. Branched apical growth is last feature of these organisms, and advancement of these features added the next division of kingdom, Plantae. Algae. Algae is undifferentiated mass of chlorophyll, largely aquatic with a lot of species. That means you cannot differentiate the algae into distinctive parts, vegetative parts like leaf, fruit, stem. Some general facts about algae. The term algae given by Linnaeus. Phycology is the study of algae. Father of phycology is Frisch, who wrote a book on structure and reproduction of algae. So father of Indian phycology is M.O.P. Iyengar. Even algae can be found on some wood, stones, and sometimes even sloth bear as well. Now we look at the reproduction modes. The modes of reproduction. First is vegetative mode of reproduction. The simplest form of vegetative mode of reproduction through breaking down of cells or fragmentation is seen in algae, and asexual mode of reproduction happens through the specific spores called zoospores, and sexual reproduction takes place through the gametes of both male and female. Here we have three types based on the size of the gamete. Isogamous refers to similar size of gametes. Example is Chlamydomonas and Spirogyra. Anisogamous where unequal size of gametes, few species of Chlamydomonas, and Oogamous where Ulvax and Fucus where the dominance of female gamete will be there. Even humans also example for Oogamous as ovule is very much larger than the sperm. Now we look at the algae classes with examples. So phylum Chlorophyta, green algae. Examples are Edegonium and Chlamydomonas. So distinctively they have green chlorophyll inside them, and Phaeophyta, the brown algae is inside them. So you can see the brown physical color, and Rhodophyta, the red pigments are present inside. So those are called as red algae. So these are the examples from the book, and let us look at the images to understand better. You can observe the figures 1 and 2 figures are clearly indicating the greenish color. That means those are chlorophytes. And next you can see the sargassum and laminaria, the brownish pigments. And thirdly, the last two pictures from Rhodophyta, you can see how they're distinctly showing the reddish pigment. in the physical observation. And then this is life cycle of algae. The algae, I'm trying to bring an example of algae, what is called as the chlamydomonas. These chlamydomonas even have the flagellated structures which helps in moving, but that doesn't mean that all the algae has this kind of structures. To save some time, I am going to play an animation. I want you to observe it to understand the narrated animation of life cycle of algae. Okay, it's set. Let me hit on start button.
Chlamydomonas zoospores are haploid flagellated cells. As long as conditions are favorable, these cells reproduce asexually. As many as 16 cells may form by mitosis within a parent cell. Daughter cells escape when the cell wall ruptures. When conditions become less favorable, the asexually produced cells develop into gametes. There are two different mating types. When gametes of different mating types meet, they first undergo cytoplasmic, then nuclear fusion. The product of this sexual reproduction is a diploid zygote. The zygote loses its flagella and develops a thick wall that enables it to survive adverse conditions. When the zygote germinates and undergoes meiosis, it produces 4 haploid zoospores. They reproduce asexually until conditions change once again. Now let's check what you have learned. Drag the text to the blanks to identify the events in the life cycle diagram.
Let me end the animation here, and I hope that you learned it through the cycle of algae. Now let us look at the economical importance. Every day you'll interact with the products of algae without identifying it. As food, some species of algae like Laminaria nosta are used and industry, diatoms are used and agriculture as biofertilizers through azolla. So medicine, chlorella, nitella as mosquito repellent are also utilized by industries and research. Chlorella is one of the best suited example for the botanist to understand it well. And even my guru, one of my gurus is Prabhakar Naidu sir. He once told how we able to crack down the organic compounds nature when it is absorbed by the plant. So it's really amazing work. Not only that, the simplest, or you will be understanding a lot about photosynthesis. The Krebs cycle is also result of studying on the chlorella species. And some more interesting facts about that is chlorella species are even utilized by space travelers as food as well as research purposes. And SCP single cell proteins are also the future food where exclusively more proteinaceous foods are being produced with algal species. And lastly, the ecological significance is more as they have as they had been able to fix a large amount of carbon dioxide in nature. And now we look at the other part of the phylogeny. So here you can see the gradual development has been taking place in the next step, and here the stomata evolution is a basic feature after the liverworts and mosses, and then persistently green for sporophyte is being observed, and primitive xylem and phloem are also found in bryophytes and megasporophylls. That means the female structures on top is seen, and seeding habits are bigger in gymnosperms. Flowering and double fertilization is also seen in the angiosperms. I hope the double fertilization is one of the unique mode of sexual reproduction seen in almost in angiosperms. It cannot be seen, whereas in other organisms, that way they're very unique. Now we look at Bryophyta. The Bryophyta is autotrophic, non-seeded with differentiated plant body like leaves, stems, and rhizoids. Survival of habitat is terrestrial and water for reproduction. And even these are first landed plants, that's why they can be nicknamed as amphibians of plant kingdom due to the partial dependency of water as well as land for their growth. No reproduction of bryophytes. The vegetative mode of reproduction happens through the fragmentation when the thallus gets divided, they become individual plants. And adventitious roots, the adventitious roots that are holding it to the soil will also become the individual plants. And tubers, you can see the picture where the tubers are present. These tubers in separation, they also become the complete plants. Sexual mode of reproduction. This sexual mode of reproduction takes place through the sex organs of both male and female. The male one is called antheridium and female ones are called as archegonium. The types of reproduction is highly oogamous, and the fusion of male and female gametes will result in the sporophytic generation, where the diploid generation of chromosome can be seen here. Now we look at the classification features. The common names are very popular in your book, but still I'm trying to provide you the scientific names as well. So kindly go through them. First is Hepaticopsida, liverworts, Anthoceratopsida, hornworts, and Bryopsida, mosses. You can see the general information here. I'm going to tell you only the complex ones here. The elaters. The elaters are a type of cell that are helpful in the migration of the male gametes for fertilization, where this also is one of the unique feature. And here you can see the dehiscence of capsule. The capsule is nothing but a fruit kind of structure that is developed, and dehiscence refers to the breakage of it. The patterns of them also one of the unique factors of these three different classes of Bryophyta. Now we'll observe the images, liverworts, maca and Sheldrakeia. You can see under the magnifying glass very unique structures, whereas to normalize they may not look like the complete structures. And hornworts, Anthoceras, you can see the illustration as well as the live image. And next, mosses, Spinaria sphagnum, which is grown in laboratory and under the magnifying glass and microscopic image as well. And here you can see how does the sphagnum dehiscence will take place. And now let's learn more through this animation. Good to go. Let me start.
A moss, like all other plants, undergoes a complex life cycle in which the generations alternate between haploid and diploid forms. The most familiar form of the moss is the leafy haploid form, called the gametophyte. Gametophytes are either male or female. The male gametophyte produces male gametes, sperm, inside reproductive structures called antheridia. The haploid gametophyte produces these haploid sperm by mitosis. The female gametophyte produces a female gamete or egg inside each of many female reproductive structures called archegonia. Like the sperm, the eggs are haploid and are produced by mitosis. The sexual reproduction of a moss requires water, which is one reason mosses are typically found in moist environments. Sperm cells require water for transport to egg cells. Once in the vicinity of an egg, a sperm cell swims to the egg and fertilizes the egg by fusing with it. The fusion produces a diploid zygote, the first cell of the next generation, called the sporophyte generation. The zygote divides by mitosis and grows into a multicellular sporophyte. During the life of the sporophyte, it remains attached to the gametophyte and depends on the gametophyte for water and nutrients. As the sporophyte continues to grow and elongate, the surrounding gametophyte tissue keeps pace, but eventually cracks at its middle. The remaining hood-like tissue at the tip, called the calyptra, protects the growing sporophyte. Underneath the calyptra grows a sporangium filled with thousands of spores. The spores are haploid and are produced when diploid cells of the sporophyte undergo meiosis. When the top of the sporangium is shed, it reveals a ring of teeth-like structures holding in the spores. These teeth are highly responsive to humidity. They arch in and then out again as they absorb water and then dry out. Each time the teeth open out, the spores are released to the wind. A spore that lands on moist ground will germinate, producing a filamentous elongating structure called a protonema. This protonema gives rise to buds, which in turn develop into the next haploid gametophyte generation. The gametophytes in this generation will mate and continue the alternation of generations.
I think it's well explained life cycle. Now we look at economical importance of them. Very helpful in water retention, and soil erosion can be prevented by the help of rhizoids. Soil formation with weathering also takes place. The peat is also used as fuel in few countries and also biomapping. And here I try to provide you one of the commercial product here, which is made of peat moss, where the water retention is more compared to the normal soil. That is the end of bryophytes. Now we look at the pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are autotrophic, non-seeding, differentiated plant body, aerial or underground stem, herbaceous nature, and they have primitive vascular structures, and even these are nicknamed as snakes of plant kingdom. I believe that the name botanical snakes has given due to the complete migration to the soil for the entire life cycle. Now we look at reproduction. Reproduction takes place through spores as a part of asexual mode of reproduction, and sexual mode of reproduction takes place through the gametes by male and female ones. And you can see the highlighted text here: homospores are monoecious, heterospores are dioecious. So monoecious refers to the same, and di refers to two. That means if both of them uh, found on the same prothallus, these are called as monoecious, and dioecious refers to if it is produced on dioecious. This is one of the key difference between alternation of generations. So to understand this simply, I can say that in one generation of the organisms, they will be in haploid nature. That means small n. In the other generation, it will be diploid. That means 2n. As this is keep on rotating from one generation to another generation, we'll be calling that phenomenon as alternation of generations. Now we look at the classification. So we have four different classes here. First is Coelophyta, where most of the fossils are included in this, and one of the uh, important fossilized plant is Rhinia, and next is Lycophyta, club mosses or spike mosses. Example is Selaginella, and Sphenophyta, wedge and silica depositions are seen in this, and Pteridophyta, fan-like leaves with rhizomes are seen. Now let's observe the images, and Marsilia, Equisitum, Isola, Diantum, Bryopteris, Leucopodium, Pteridium. Keep the pronunciations you know in your mind, so it's very important when you say them. Now we look at the life cycle with pteridophyte. Probably fun. Let me minimize this to the screen size. Now let's go.
The diploid sporophyte is the most conspicuous part of the fern life cycle. On the underside of some fronds are clusters of spore-producing sori. Here, haploid spores are produced by meiosis. In temperate zones, spores tend to be released in the fall. The spores germinate and develop into small haploid gametophytes. Egg-producing and sperm-producing structures form on the underside of the gametophyte. In the presence of water, sperms swim to eggs, fertilization occurs, and diploid zygotes are formed. The zygote develops into a sporophyte, which at first depends upon the gametophyte, but when mature is rooted in the soil and independent. Now let's check what you have learned. Drag the text to the boxes to complete this diagram of the fern life cycle.
Okay, I think it's one of the easiest life cycle. Now we look at the economical importance. We have six different economical importances here. First is food. Marsilia species can be eaten, and those seeds can be fried. And you can see the lady fern fiddleheads here. These can be cooked and consumed. by some of the communities. And binding of soil, due to the presence of the rhizoids, they can be easily fixed to the soil. And scoring, generally it's like utilizing them as scrubbers for cleaning utensils. And nitrogen fixation, Isola is one of the species that helps in fixing the atmospheric nitrogen to the plants. And medicines, the equisetum, it is one of the anti-helmintic drug where the properties are very helpful in healing some of the blood related diseases. And ornamental, we have a large group of ornamental plants from the pteridophytes. I think this is very much evident to you whenever you observe any bouquet. It is very clearly inserted, as it appears like very much greenish. So next time whenever you see this is also called as the foxtail fern. Remember that foxtail fern, and even you can look at them as complete trees at some homes. So let's take a break now. We'll continue with phenomenal plants in next lecture. High order is waiting for you. Don't miss it.